Surely this should be something that concerns you. People are simply not just showing up to register as voters.
Yes,
Why?
And I really want to urge, Kenyans have this habit of waiting for the last day. And I really want to urge Kenyans to do it now, because we are using technology, we are using the BVR machines. Unfortunately, 4 of them were stolen by Al-Shabaab. But this BVR machine is likely to get overwhelmed. If the last day or 2 days, everybody is now registering and there's a long queue.
Yes.
And if this is not extended, then it means some people will be cut off from the queue. So what I urge Kenyans is let's do it in the remaining days. There are very many IDs and collected in the chief's offices. It's good to collect them and register as a voter. But the most important, and I'm just thinking, loudly, and I hope not, that which has been the practice in the past, that IDs are not being given massively on the Jubilee areas, and on the other side there is no ID which is being processed. So that we treat the country fairly. Let's balance the country. Let's all people in the country be given IDs. Those who have applied, if it is 3 days, I'm sure if you can apply for an ID today, in 3 days you should be able to get it, and in 5 days you should be able to register as a voter. So I really want to ask the young people and all people who have IDs and are likely to apply for an ID to use that, because it's a way of showing patriotism to your country.
Yes.
At the moment you don't do it, then you don't support your country. It shows you don't care about your country. We have only one Kenya, which we should all be patriotic to take care. Whether there are political differences or not, they will come and pass, but Kenya will remain.
Now we know, of course, the usual period of time it takes to get an ID between application and you receiving the card should be about a month, 30 days or so. Is it true what we hear that in some areas of central Kenya, IDs are being handed out in 3 days' time? You apply for an ID today, and by Sunday you go back and you get an ID.
Well, from where I sit, I wish that would be the case, because everyone is really suffering for that slow processing of IDs. But the truth is, it is not happening. What is happening in central Kenya applies the same in every part of this country. There is no favorism, but of course I would wish that would be the scenario. As to why there is delay, I don't know. Maybe the registrar of persons can clarify the matter and tell us why there's a lot of delay.
When you talk about voter apathy, are you experiencing that in Kiharo by any chance?
No. I can tell you, this is the best government that has ever happened for the people of Kiharo. We are not going to come to this to voting 70 to 80%. The turnout will be 100%.
So there's nothing like voter apathy
in
that
Kiharo
section,
this is the best government ever. The best since I don't know when. Hey, what are you talking about? In Kiharo there will be no voter apathy, and for all the reasons we have really benefited.
What about Gilgil and Nakuru in general?
I think in Dumuli, we need to really be honest that it is actually an issue, because the issue of IDs, and I want to talk to it because Honorable Maanzo has raised it, it is not an issue of Jubilee or CORD. In fact, you need the ID not just for voting, you need it for your M-Pesa transactions, you need it for your bank. So it is a right of every Kenyan to get an ID. But it is also an issue, because if you go to the chiefs, I know like in my place, we have so many IDs that are lying in the chiefs' offices and the DOs that are not being picked up by the people who are supposed to. So it is also another issue, and that has happened even in the CORD areas. It does not matter. There are so many around, all around the country. So it also needs to bring it to the attention of people, of Kenyans, that we must have a better system. And I say that the National Registration Bureau must have a better system, that the moment your ID comes to the DO's office, you have the person's phone number, because most Kenyans are now covered by mobile phones. They should be able to be alerted that your ID is out, come and pick it out. And I've seen it happen in some areas. But in terms of registration of voters, of course, there are several factors to it. First, we wait for the last minute. So you can expect that the last 5 days, those BVR machines will have will actually be heating up,
it should
because
be
there will be so many.
Each BVR machine can only register about a maximum of 200.
Yeah, and it heats up. So you can expect that the queues will be longer, and that is really a Kenyan problem, which is very unfortunate that we wait for the last minute. And I know, like in, I would say we are expecting the leadership of the parties have actually been going round, because the only way you can win is actually to raise the numbers.
Yes.
And the reason I say CORD are very scared of elections, and that is why they are bringing every issue every day to scuttle these elections, is because they are doing their calculations in their areas and they are not adding up. We've seen the president get out personally, and I know we are expecting to actually host him in Nakuru on Monday to actually sensitize people to register as voters. And we have been on the ground. I've actually just come from Gilgil myself, because you have to take it personal. If you want to win, you really must mobilize voters. But I think the numbers are still not the best that we expect. I know, like in Nakuru, we are doing maybe a 25%, 30%, which is not very good. So we need to actually sensitize for the remaining days and not threaten. I do not agree that you deny your partner conjugal rights because they are not registered. I think we need to sensitize but not threaten, and actually explain why you need to vote, because if you don't vote, then you lose the right to actually contribute to your government. You lose the right to complain, and that must be said very clearly, that bad leaders are elected by good people who don't vote. We must tell people the importance of voting.
As I keep saying, in about 10 days or 11 days time, politicians will be sitting down with the calculators, just seeing how many voters they have in the bag.
Oh yes.
Assuming you assume that the entire backyard is yours, so everyone from that region will vote for you, so you'll just be calculating this region, then you see if at all there's a point for you to run for elections or not. Anyway, let's switch gears now and move away from politics and discuss one of the headlines on the front pages of the dailies, and that's on the Standard. After poor exam results, tough rules out for teachers. Teachers will require written permission to be absent from school and can only attend conferences during weekends under new rules to keep them in class to improve performance. And a departure from past practice where teachers would walk in and out of class at will, all 300,000 teachers will now be required to submit written requests to be absent from school. Progress?
Yes. Well, you know, that's a very good thing to do, because
it's like signing a register now.
Yeah, you remember teachers that asked for higher salaries, and you know, they negotiated well. And you know, the same way, you need to make sure, you know, a lot of teachers do other businesses other than teaching. You need to make sure. You remember one time a story was told of a teacher who was running boda. So as soon as the telephone will ring for a customer, he will give some homework to the class and leave, and then come back later. You know, that's a very raw deal to Kenyans. And I believe teachers are responsible enough. In fact, there are very many committed teachers. Like the ones who taught me in school, they were so committed. Yes. You could see the commitment. So, you know, this is good for a few who are not committed, so that for the salary they get, it's not a fraudulent salary, that they have actually worked for it, earned it, and have actually helped children. You know, the fate of the country is in teachers. Teachers spend a lot more time, even more, with the children than parents. And therefore, you know, they are role models to children. So if a teacher behaves like that, a phone rings and he goes to do a boda, the child will think, when you work for government or you work for anybody, this is how to behave. And
I'm not even sure if you're the right people to ask this question, because Parliament and the Senate usually have this problem of quorum day in, day out. So you only sign in because of the allowance.
Like now, the bell is being rung every afternoon.
There's no quorum.
There's no quorum because people have gone to rescue their lives at the ground.
Yes, how much members of Parliament earn? Cannot even be compared to
I can defend a member of Parliament. Let me tell you, you are on call 24 hours. And even if you are not on the floor of the house...
Same as that boda operator who was a teacher in class.
But the work of Parliament is not just done in Parliament.
Yeah? You are on call 24 hours, 7 days a week. If you are not on the floor of the house, trust me, you are somewhere resolving a matter of your constituents. You know, it's a job which is very occupying. So even the speaker's ruled so. It's not just on the floor. In fact, he ruled it as an, you know, just by the way. It is not on the floor just a member works. On the floor is just part of the business. But a lot of work of a member of Parliament is out there.
Yes.
Even for those who are fighting for their life to come back or to survive politically, they are still involved with the constituents.
Back to the teachers, do you think them having to sign in every time, and it's like a register, same as their students, that will work? It could serve to actually demoralize teachers.
Well, to me, from my seat, well, it's a good idea, but on the other hand, to me, I would deem that one as being what we call hard tactic. We need also to institute what we call soft tactics. And soft tactics means probably the TSC should consider giving maybe, let's say, some allowances that are going to act as incentives. So, instead of focusing so much on punishment, instead of focusing so much on punishing the teachers, we should also look from the other angle of motivating them.
Yes.
For instance, you can come up with a criteria and say, if a teacher is able to improve grades, maybe from this examination to this examination, that teacher is going to get this token.
There will be no need to police them.
Yes, to an extent, yes, you can be able to come up with benchmarks, which are you are now going probably to offer monetary incentives, or even promotion incentives to boost the output, as opposed to this idea of so much policing them. It may be expensive, it may be too bureaucratic, it may not also serve the intended interest in the long run.
Yes.
Of course, I support any initiative that is geared towards making our education standards come up. But to me, I would have looked at it from that angle of giving them incentives. And but by doing that, I would imagine you'd have a situation where there is more acceptability on the part of teachers. I do not know how the union is going to take this measure. It may as well deem it as they want to punish teachers. So if you have the second option, which I'm proposing, maybe acceptability will be better, and there'll be more morale boosting measures.
Because this headline looks very punitive to teachers, and with the progress we are making in terms of education, and the discussions about a new curriculum coming up, which will need even teachers to be even more into their practice. Do you think it's time to start punishing them?
You know, it's not even about punishing. You know, in the Muli, the education sector has gone through really a metamorphosis. And last year, with the Matiang'i rules and the celebrations of how exam had been taken, we must also look at the other side, that we had thousands of kids who actually did not get D's. They had below D's. In fact, that was really my shock. It was really a shocker in the country. We wouldn't be able to celebrate the few A's we got. In fact, the joke is that they would fit in one WhatsApp group. But we also must be very worried by the numbers of the E's and the D's that we get, because it tells a lot about the system, because it tells a lot about the teachers, it tells a lot about the teaching. But let's also remember that teachers are also grown-ups. You can actually just check in and be on Facebook throughout the day. So does that translate to better grades? I can bet it does not. So I think TSC must look at ways, first of all, hire enough teachers. I think that is the first thing we need to do, so that we have a good ratio of teacher-students, because most of these teachers and parents are suffering. I can tell you from my constituency where I come from, that most parents are paying money to employ parents employed and boards of management teachers, because there is a shortage, and there is an acute shortage for that. So I think we must look at it holistically. Let us not just put it to clocking a register. It won't work. We must look at encouraging the teachers to actually be able to teach and deliver results. That cannot be one method. It cannot be done by just clocking a register. It must be a synergy of many other ways of delivering results. Of
course, teacher absenteeism has been blamed for the poor performance. It's one of those reasons that have been put forth as having contributed to the poor performance of students in schools, and these rules by the TSC are intended to change that trend. Let's now move on to other stories and to politics now. Let's go to politics. But before we go to politics, let's look at this other headline about the salaries, because as I mentioned, there's a huge disparity. This came out yesterday, and it was also on the front page of the dailies. We don't necessarily need to go through the new gradings and all, but the disparity between the highest earning civil servant and the lowest earning civil servant is so glaring. Now, it will even be worse come July 1st if this grading is actually adopted, because if you are the highest paid civil servant, because that's grade E4, between 292 to 576,000. Remember, previously the maximum pay, the highest paid civil servant according to in 2012, job group T was earning between 152,000 to 302,000. Now they'll be earning 576,000 more. That's 270,000 more. You just go to your ATM and you